Yeah, I can hear you.
Welcome to a Han Reborn Hero Spotlight featuring Revenant. This ranged stealthy assassin empowers himself and teammates around him and removes protection from his enemies to ensure effective kills. Revenant's first ability is Defile, which grants an ally's auto-attack bonus magic damage as well as slowing the enemy target. Revenant's second ability is Mortification. Revenant attaches spirits to the target, dealing magic damage to the target and enemies nearby, as well as reducing magic armor. Revenant's third ability is Essence Shroud, which applies stealth to an ally. When the stealthed hero attacks an enemy, it reduces armor on the target for a short duration. Revenant's ultimate is Manifestation. This ultimate empowers all of his other abilities, including the amount of targets each ability will be cast on once used. And girls, to the stream. What is officially the Reborn Roundtable Dev Updates. Episode number 2 officially here, and excited to be here with some dev updates for you guys. Looking forward to having some good discussion over the next hour here or so, and even answering some questions that you may have in chat. So shout out to everyone tuning in, whether it's between Twitch, our Twitch stream at twitch.tv/HanReborn, or in the Discord, of course, where we have our staged event that we like to do. So let's get into it without further ado. That is right. You saw right there, Revenant, going to be the next hero that'll be coming into Han Reborn and be in the patch. The patch, that's set to happen later today, even late tonight, actually. Into tomorrow. So looking forward to getting that in, and obviously we'll kind of go over a bit more as far as what's to come with that, and what more is to come even in the future as well. So, but with that said, before we really get into the nitty gritty here, of course, myself, Breaky CBK, joined by several others of the team. First off, joined by Corden. Corden, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you for organizing this.
Of course, happy to do it. Happy to talk with the community and let them know what we're working on and give them some good insight here. So we are also joined by Malikin. Malikin, how's it going?
Doing well, Breaky. Sorry to come crash the party. Figured I'd come and talk about a couple of things. I've only got about 10 minutes or so, and then I got to bail, but happy to be here.
Absolutely. So yeah, with that said, again, we are going to definitely be going over a bit here today. Like I said, what will be patch 0.9.3 technically, not only Revenant, but there is actually a good amount of changes coming that we'll get into. But yeah, before we get into all that, to your point, Mark, let's go ahead and I'll throw the reins to you. I know there's some things that you may want to talk about first as we kick things off here.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to point out. Today we will be patching the 4th time in about a month, which I'm sure is recognizably different than the way things have been operating before. Kind of want to just point out we've made some pretty significant changes. They started about 6 weeks ago. We're starting to see the fruit of those changes. Large internal shakeup. Some roles and responsibility things. I'm not going to get into a bunch of details that nobody cares about. I think what we do care about is the end product. What's the quality of service we're providing? That obviously includes patching. It's how we deliver a bunch of fixes and new content to the game. And it's nice to see that we're putting out the 4th patch in about a month, which puts us at about a patch a week. I don't know how long we'll be able to keep this pace. It also reflects something that I want to touch on. Months ago, we announced a $100,000 tournament, and that's still on the books. Obviously, things we expected the game to be further along than it is right now. Take that for what it may be. The good news is we know the game has to get better. We know that we, as the developers and operators of the game, also have to get better. And we're doing the things that I think are necessary to get the game in a position that it needs to be in, that it deserves to be in, to provide a better quality of service for people. And we are putting in the hard work to do that. I hope that is visible, at least over the last month or so. This patch today, which I know we're going to get into some of the stuff, I'm extremely happy and very excited for what it brings to the game of Han, and I don't know if we want to transition into that. Well, but let me go back to the tournament real quick though, because I brought that up for a very specific reason. We want to have we will announce the date of the tournament when we are very confident in knowing the date that Han will go to 1.0. And today we can't nail that date down. Because we can't nail that date down, we don't want to have a tournament for a game that we don't consider to be in a fully releasable state. So as we get closer to that, there will be more news about that. And I don't want to get out in front of myself, but we do plan to have other tournaments leading up to the big tournament. Some details of that will come soon. I don't know what your schedule is for that, Breaky, but at least there's a sneak peek for that. Competitive play for the game is extremely important to us, and we want to support it as much as we possibly can. So because this has been delayed and been pushed back, our thought is to have some smaller lead up tournaments to at least let people scrim, get ready, play in tournaments, hone their skills, and get ready for the bigger launch tournament.
Yeah, just
that being said, I think
yeah.
I'm good.
I appreciate it, Mark, and definitely great insight as always. Yeah, to just tag along with that a little bit more. Yeah, especially future events. More focus on the players, the high tier players, or players that are really looking and feeding that competitive play when it comes to the game. Absolutely, and I'm biased, of course, when it comes to that as well. Hey, I would want to run tournaments every single weekend if we could if we could do that. But maybe we'll get to that point in the future. But yeah, again, definitely still some development to be made, and good to hear the reassurance that that big $100,000 tournament obviously still very much on, and we are getting to the point. Just need to get to that point to be able to solidify and make sure we can know when it can happen. So,
before I take off, I don't want to steal any thunder.
You're good.
You mind if I do a quick review of the notable points of this patch?
Let's do it because I know
I'd like to speak to what War Type said.
Okay.
Of course, he called himself. I have to find it because what did you call yourself? The constant complainer. Don't consider it complaining. It's
Serial
constructive
bot
criticism,
yeah.
and that constructive criticism leads to changes. Many times changes that need to take place. I'm going to rattle through what I consider to be the 5 most important things of this, and maybe we'll end up adding a 6th one. We're adding role queue to matchmaking. So now you get to select which roles you want to play, and you will be matched to play those roles. No more random distribution of what role you'll get based off of what MMR you are, and maybe you get lucky and get the top 1 or 2 roles. Unfortunately, we considered that to be just not the best experience. So we put together, Dennis can probably speak to this a bit after I run through these, and then I got to go because he did a majority, if not all, the work for this, and we ran simulations to make sure we don't break our game by doing so. We have 6 game server crashes. Some of them showed up from our previous patch, but some had been long-standing. But these I know obviously cause a great frustration within the community. New hero, Revenant, we obviously talked about that. We are refactoring and going back to older penalty point numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also wiping all penalty points with this patch. We are also removing kick and adding a report a player function into the game. I think these are some of the highest concerns that the community has had, many of them obviously being addressed. And then the last one is after this patch, within a few days, we will be able to assess some data that we will be getting from this patch, which will allow us to strongly mitigate all of the bot activity within the game.
There you go. Yeah, I'm sure people kind of absorbing what you said right there, and you're absolutely right. I mean, this patch is bringing quite a bit to the table, quite a bit of firepower in that sense, especially answering the community. Again, the very valuable feedback that you certainly have been given over time, and we're at a point, even in recent patches, been doing so, putting things in. That's definitely been because of the community, if anything. But this one especially, kick removal being a big part of that, the roll queue. And in fact, while you were talking there, I was even showing some of the updates that we have UI wise, and just to help give a bit more in terms of what to expect when it comes to the roll queue. And I know that's been a popular demand one there. So yeah, very excited for that. Set to come out later tonight / early tomorrow with the patch rollout here. Did you need to take off now, Mark?
Yep, I'm good with that. Thanks for giving me the platform.
Absolutely.
Say a couple things. Hopefully this patch rolls out well, and the changes are received well, and game on.
Let's go.
Thanks, Breaky.
Absolutely.
Have fun, Dennis. Talk to you guys.
Always appreciate Malikin coming on and talking about that stuff here. And again, we'll break it down a bit more. But to that point, Corden, he mentioned we'll start there. We'll start a role priority. As he mentioned, you especially have definitely been in the works with it. Could even give more insight, more technical insight, etc. So role priority. What do you want to say on that update coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. To clarify, we did have kind of a role queue to a certain degree in Reborn Forever. Like from the very beginning, you are able to prioritize your roles from most desired to least desired, except that it wasn't really guaranteed, and it was favoring certain players more than others. So if you are a high-rated player, you're more likely to get the role you want, and if you're a less rated player, or you just happen to join a match where you are lower rated player than the rest of the roster, you will end up getting the least desired role, which for a lot of players is really a big problem. Let's say you are a player who only play a small number of roles. Maybe you're a new player. Maybe you just have a preference of playing specific type, style, and you're playing. Let's say you're good at playing mid or carry, and you're, let's say, 1700 and you join a lobby that is higher than what you are, like 1800s, 1900s, and you're forced to play a role that you're not very good at. It's not your best role. You are going to be underperforming for sure. If you're 1700 as a playing mid or carry, it doesn't mean you're 1700 playing a support or a suicide or jungle or whatever.
I'm a 2000 rated support, man. But yeah, when it comes to mid, okay, I admit, maybe I'm like 1500. So yeah, I fall under
exactly. And so from the get-go, from the picks, from that very moment that you got assigned role, it can create a whack, and it can create a tension in the team where players like, I don't want to play this role. This is not the role I want. The people start leaving, So we want to address that simply by increasing a probability of you getting the role that you want. And there's a couple of different ways that we're looking into doing it. There are multiple approaches to do that. The first approach I want to mention is just guaranteeing that you get the top 3 or top 4 or top 5, just not top 7, because everybody is proficient with a certain amount of roles, but not all of them. And the second approach is to be very, very explicit. I want these roles only, and I don't want anything else. Both of these approaches are viable, and we're evaluating both of them and implementing, and we're probably going to be experimenting with which one creates better experience for users. The one that we're going to launch today is going to be the most extreme, but the most direct, where we give you the power to select which roles you want, and we're gonna guarantee that entering the match you will get one of those roles. For example, like in the screenshot above, you shared a player has selected 3 roles: carry, mid, and off lane. and he will be guaranteed to get those 3 roles.
Mm-hmm.
It does have creates a little bit of an extra stress on both the matchmaking and the queue in overall, because just restricting, like locking down these set of roles that you have selected from the 7, from the, like having all 7 going down to just 3 means that we're going to uh, change the way we create the matches, and potentially it will increase your queue times. But as a trade-off, you're gonna get a better experience, and it's a trade-off. Like, we give you the power to make this trade-off. You can increase, go back to the old system by just selecting all of them. Um, or you can, like, you get to choose like how to make this trade-off. Like, you want to get extremely fast queue times, or you want to have reasonable queue
Right.
times, but you get exactly the role you
The
want.
transparency is there. The understanding that
Right.
you're making a choice when it
Mhm.
comes to whether you want the longer queue time or the quicker one. Yeah.
We are throwing a little bonus there. However, we looking obviously we don't want to launch this feature without analyzing, doing looking at the data, looking at like who plays which roles, and what when we looked at the data we have, ran the simulations, like what's going to happen when we launch this feature. We realized that there is actually a shortage of supports, primarily hard supports and soft supports. And so what we're going to do is we're going to give a little bit of an incentive for you to choose the roles that are in more higher demand, where like just player there's less players comfortable playing those roles in the queue, um, and we're gonna give you an extra plinko drop, regardless if you win or lose the match, if you roll that role.
Mm-hmm.
That way, we're trying to find a balance between. We want to have a more or less equal distribution of different roles in the queue, which will in turn create just faster matches, everybody for everyone, but not just faster matches, but also higher quality matches, because you're still going to be having the role that you want. Yeah, so this is the role priority changes that we're aiming to launch later today. Um, it'll be like in beta. It, maybe we'll launch it. I just want to set a little bit of expectations. We may be testing this for a few days and then roll back for going back to old system, and like for a little bit of polish, and then we will launch it. Hopefully that won't happen. I just want to be
But it's an
upfront that
expectation that the transparent. I love it. Yeah,
right.
and you to your point about it's like this is in beta, like the game's in beta, and I know that's sometimes hard to hard to forget or hard to remember for players, and I get why, but yeah, obviously a lot of this is in beta, and we need to be willing and are willing to try things for the sake of the betterment of the game in the future. So yeah, important to bring. So it's not guaranteed that that'll be the case, but it is a possibility. Is good to bring up there.
But this is not the only change that we're launching with this patch on the matchmaking side. We are looking at a lot more changes to make. We're constantly looking to like improve user experience. We're looking for how are players spending their time in the queue, like where is who is spending more time than others, who is getting like are players getting equally balanced matches across the board, and trying to make tweaks everywhere. We want to make sure that everybody has experience, whether they are high rated players, they're in the middle of the pack, or like lower on the lower end of the MMR distribution. And each of those have actually very unique challenges to them that we are going to be addressing separately. The high rated players, they typically have they get the roles they want. Almost always, because role priority was initially implemented to be higher rated player gets the higher priority role first.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they have this issue with the queue times. They have They have great quality of the games for the most part, but longer queue times. Whereas the other players, they have better queue times, but they have worse role priority. Another issue that people are often bringing up is that they want to play with the friends, and the distribution that we allow right now for players to playing together is a little bit of a little strict. So if you are, for example, if you're 2,000 player and 24 want to play with a 2,400 player, this is not allowed because we consider it to be the range a little bit too big, and it's fixed for the entire MMR range. It's just right now it's locked down to 250, and if the difference between you and your teammate exceeds that, you will not be able to queue together. So we're addressing that as well by making it a little bit more flexible at the higher level, but also in the middle of the pack. Yeah, we want to make sure that everybody has reasonable queue times, reasonably balanced games where both teams are equal, and we're going to continue monitoring and making tweaks to the matchmaking to make sure that everybody has a great experience.
Yeah. Just kind of, playing with friends. This not necessarily a majority of the player base, but obviously there's people in chat, and I see that I certainly fit under this. Another thing that is going to be coming with this patch is players rated 1850 plus can now actually queue together, regardless of the MMR spread. So that's that's going in, right? Yeah, that is written down here, so I want to make sure. But yeah, so
Yes.
that'll be going in as well. That's the plan. So at the higher level, you should be able to play with one another when it comes to being at the 1850 plus range, where before that was restricted for had the good reason for that. But
Correct. And it's not going into this patch, but we are looking into making it possible for players to play with any distribution at a lower level. It's just not coming into this patch. It will be. We're still kind of discussing how we're going to do it, and I don't want to spoil any surprises, but it will be possible.
Yeah, and so with this Reborn Roundtable, kind of the format, and this is only our second episode, so still kind of feeling it out. I will say, ideally, we usually try to wait for the end to do question and answers. Obviously, I see a lot of questions happening in chat. Try to wait to the end, but I do think there are a couple that fit to what we're talking about here for a good reason. It's a hot topic, specifically. And we're talking about going kind of to the role priority, and this idea, that mixed with, of course, the removal of kick, and in place going to be a post-match reported player. Again, this will be coming with the patch, and it's one of those things. It is going to be a little bit of time to, like Mark was saying earlier, in terms of gathering the data, seeing what we're looking at, and ultimately acting upon the data, and then kind of catching up in that sense, and then moving a bit more fluid throughout. So we do ask, for your patience in that, which I understand can be difficult, especially with something like this sometimes. But we trust us. We are making this change what we feel like is going to be for the better. Moving forward, but specifically for role, so this example of role queue, where somebody queues up support and then they end up playing a Flint Beastwood support in the safe lane. It's like, okay, that's not something we want to have on my team. Where at this point you have been able to kick them, obviously with the removal of that, no longer will be able to do so. Can report them after the fact and take care of it that way. However, being brought up, this account creation, they can just create a new account and keep doing the same thing. That is another topic that I don't know how specific we necessarily want to get on this for good reasons, but we are also implementing something with this patch that is going to help facilitate us dealing with malicious accounts and accounts that are created just with the purpose of avoiding honor on their quote-unquote main account to then just create another account and then ruin other people's experiences. So we do have something in the works / that is going to be going in this patch, and again, going to take some time for it to ultimately develop into the tool that we want it and need it to be, but know that is happening, I guess is what I'm really getting at. We're not just completely ignoring that. We understand that is a very big deal and something we want to make sure is enforced, and there's just not this easy avenue of, oh, I have this many penalty points, whatever, I'm griefing this account, I got taken care of, okay, I'll just create a new one. Anything you want to add to that, Corden?
Yeah, we are addressing it, and primarily I want to address the point where people are concerned about that the removal of the kick is going to not give them the tools enough tools to deal with those players. I wouldn't look at it as a removal of the kick entirely, because the reporting a player is essentially almost the same as kicking, but the player stays in the game. Um, there is a couple of significant problems with the kick quote that, from my personal experience, that I'm experienced bad malicious actors in a game where somebody is clearly trolling or feeding or just not playing good enough, and people just want to kick them. And a lot of times, I am not passing the kick vote, because I know that if we kick that player, yes, we will punish them, but it also means that we're losing the game. It's a Meraxus with a PK and a stun, and we need initiation. If we kick them, even if they're not performing, if they have 111, like a lot of deaths, that player is still contributing a lot of value to the game. If you feel like you want to punish that player, you can initiate this report vote, and you will be able to influence that player. He will be maybe matched with that player less, or maybe they'll get penalty points. We're kind of doing this I think, in a more black box way, so that it doesn't necessarily need to be highly visible to the players how we're punishing them, but we are. So I want to encourage, like, the kick vote is basically, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, you're punishing a player, but you're also punishing your own team, and you're also more likely than not going to be losing the game 4v5.
Yeah. One thing I want to touch on that real quickly too is when it comes to the kick vote, we are removing it at this point. Is that to say that an option for a kick vote of some sort to come back in the future is completely off the table? No. And as we always say with just pretty much every topic, anything is still potentially on the table. If it makes sense in the long run, sure. I know that this has been brought up before too when it comes to a kick vote of sorts, or dealing with griefers in the game in the moment where they're just obviously griefing, etc. A tool, a bit more, I don't want to say automation to it, but maybe that is the way, where something to detect that is happening in the game, that'll then give the option to the team to ultimately remove the player, if that makes sense, right? And now, again, obviously, you have to be careful with that. There's a lot of factors that come into play with that even, but that is an avenue that we are absolutely exploring for being able to take more direct impact within the game itself, because again, we understand, especially with us implementing it in the first place, I mean, we still stand by what it ultimately was supposed to be, absolutely, but over time, through feedback and the iteration of it, etc., we've certainly come to a conclusion, understood that it's just not in a spot where it needs to be at this point. Let's go with this more report-a-player system, and then revisit it once it is more appropriate and more ready to ultimately be placed in.
Right. But it's also not just replacing one vote with another vote. We are putting a lot of efforts right now into the analysis of, like, collection of the data of why the player was reported or kicked, and trying to understand if there is a pattern to their behavior, if there is a specific pattern of play that players just not enjoying. It will take time for us to gather that data, to analyze that data, and take decision or some actionable items on that front. But this is an extremely important step forward towards improving the quality of the game going forward.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, big moderation change there in terms of with the kick vote removal, report a player coming. Like I said, coming out with the patch later today. Definitely excited to get that in motion. Again, ask for patience in terms of it ultimately getting into play and allowing the data to be collected, etc. But we are confident and absolutely will be for the better and ensure much higher quality matches, mixed with everything else going in, as we talked about. You did a great job going over not only the role queue, but the matchmaking changes that have been implemented and are going to be coming even more as time goes on here. So, yeah, absolutely. I think... is there anything else you want to say on patch 9.3 before we move on, I suppose?
Nope. I think I'm good.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump into. I mean, we pretty much already talked about matchmaking stuff too. So I don't know if there's really anything else on that. Just, I guess a touch point on that is it in the works here in Discord. If you're in our Discord, there we have a channel here dedicated to letting you guys know what we're developing in terms of what is being developed to put into not only potentially a next patch coming up or as soon as possible. You know, the point is we're trying to be very transparent, especially as we've hit this new year, of what we're working on actively as a team. So a couple other things are things like rank progression. We talked about this where this idea as far as looking at ranked play and the ladders itself and how it stands. You know, things like an official first season potentially going to be coming up pretty soon here, and kind of kicking that off. And also how ranks even displayed is something that we're looking into, you know, more than just simply a number, right, if that makes sense. So again, don't want to get too much into the weeds of it, but definitely some good development coming to ranked play, more reason to compete in ranked play specifically on your main account and compete for rewards, etc. And then account progression is another big one too. Again, not to get too much into the weeds, but by account progression, talking about features that will really help give players more of a reason even to play game to game, and also help complete the whole matchmaking experience. From you queue up for a match, you play your match, you get the post-game match stuff, and then you get rewards beyond the just simply winning the game or losing the game Plinko drop reward. Again, we've talked about ideas like quests in the past, guild systems, account levels, etc. Again, not saying any specifics here, but that all fits under this umbrella of account progression that we're certainly actively working on at least certain aspects of it and looking to get into the game as well. So anything further on that?
Nope. I think account progression is going to be great. We like the discussions we had internally are extremely exciting. I hope you guys are gonna love it. Yeah.
All right, sorry, taking a drink right there. So something else that did take place recently in the latest patch, as well as there's also another slight change coming into it this patch as well, is Midwars. Midwars, again, pretty popular mode. I myself find myself playing it more, especially since we introduced MMR with it, the ranked play. We, of course, made some map changes in the previous patch that overall, you know, feel like for the better, but certainly been getting some feedback with it, specifically the neutral camp. Those turtles, I don't even know exactly what they're supposed to be, but point is a new neutral camp, the big guy that drops not only a power rune, but drops a hefty amount of gold. I think it equals out to be like 500 gold in total if you kill the whole camp. Spawns every minute. That is being nerfed in this patch as well. The amount of gold received is going to be nerfed in this patch. In fact, let me just go through the notes real quickly to make sure. Yes, the gold bounty for it is going to be nerfed, and there's a couple of other changes as well to it, including it'll now be considered an ancient creep, which actually is pretty important because, as was brought up, there's things like Blood Hunter as a hero could eat the creep, killing it quickly. Now, Blood Hunters are pretty bad hero in Midwars, so I don't know if that's necessarily the biggest deal, but Alchemist Bones being able to immediately destroy it, things like that. And there's a couple of other abilities that interact with it, maybe not as intended. So, point is, going to be labeled as an ancient creep, which will no longer be allowed to interact that way with it. So, yeah, so good feedback change there coming in this patch.
Sometimes it is funny to see how people are looking to exploit meta and find creative ways to take an advantage of those maybe loopholes, or just find the creative ways to use that to your benefit. Like, for example, you could pick affiliate, which is generally really bad pick in Midwars, but if you're controlling a lot of creeps that are strong, it will allow you to push Midwars extremely quickly. Or if you have a Whispering Helm, you can take control of those creeps. It's not intended, but in certain cases it can create to play styles that we haven't considered. So props to players who discover them and find the ways to take advantage of those.
Yeah, and I think a big point I wanted to also make on top of all that is that we are taking Midwars a lot more seriously. Again, we have a designer specifically by the name of Duck. Maybe you've seen around if you happen to be involved in Midwars and the discussions with it. He's taken lead on making sure Midwars is getting the love it absolutely deserves, and ideally that has shown with these last couple of patches, and that'll continue to be the case as we move on as well. So looking forward to more development to come with Midwars, absolutely, as we move forward here. And again, those changes coming in this patch, so look forward to that if you happen to be a Midwars player. I think honestly that covers pretty well. There are some other things in the patch, but again, you'll have to just wait and see. Frankly, we did cover most of the pretty much the high priority ones. I guess the last thing, again, Malikan touched on it earlier too. We didn't talk about it too much necessarily, but game server crash fixes, of course, absolutely a big one. It's just one of those that it's may forget to mention, but it's like obviously that's a big deal, because it's one of those things of players. When it comes to server stability and an enjoyable game experience, there's nothing worse than being in a game and all of a sudden the server just explodes and you're back waiting in queue for your next game and getting penalty points or whatever that are undeserved. So, again, it's not going to sit here and guarantee that everything's fixed within 100%. Obviously, that would be silly with the live service game especially, but absolutely more fixes have come with that, and some big game server crashes that were diagnosed and ultimately fixed are coming in this patch as well. So look forward to that. Patch notes when they are going to be shortly before the patch is actually deployed, which again, right now an ETA of I would say I say later tonight, early tomorrow morning, because frankly it kind of depends where you live. But I think the plan is in the next 8 hours or so is when we would start to patch it in. So that's what we're planning. But ideally by this weekend, so by Saturday when you're gaming, you'll have patch 9.3 in. So that is the plan. Unless you have anything else to say, Corden, I think we're at the point where we can just, as I pretty much did there, some Q&A. So if you do have questions, I know, like I said, people have been asking them in chat. If there's any that stand out for you, then feel free to bring it up as well. Separate stats for Midwars. This N52D. This just stood out to me as we're on that topic. Can you clarify that, actually? Because I believe we do intend to have separate stats for Midwars when it comes to your account.
I think we already do. Well, starting with obviously with the rating.
Well,
but also, correct. But also just the win rate per hero. Some of those stats you can already see if you launch the client. If you go to your profile page, there is a toggle between Caldivar and Midwars, and changing that toggle will show you slightly different stats. Right now, it's we're still making progress on that front. We want to do a lot more. We want to filter matches by Midwars versus Caldivar. So when you change the toggle, you will see different matches, different heroes. All that kind of stuff will be populated. It is in its infancy, but it will be developed further and further to include. We to be clear, we consider Midwars to be a first-class mode. It's not a supplement to Midwars to rank to the Caldivar. It's something that you casually play. Sometimes there is a lot of players. There is a very strong player base of Midwars only players who take it very seriously, very competitively, who want the game mode to continue to evolve towards like being a serious mode rather than something that you play occasionally to just try find builds. And that's why we have an extra developer working just on Midwars. And all these changes that we're making to the mode. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, stats will absolutely is critical for players who are looking to their own improvement. Yes, that is coming.
Right. So we see here, I apologize, the names are, because I have the streamer mode on, so I can't see fully, but somebody asking, so the major server stutter should be fixed now, where all things happen at the last second. So with the server crash fixes, I don't necessarily think that they'll 100% address that. Not that that's not a priority. Obviously, something like that is, and yes, I mean it happens occasionally in my games too. We've all been there, I'm sure. I know what you're talking about. So I can't speak on that. I'm not going to sit here and say no. Yeah, that'll not happen ever again. Obviously, again, live service game servers. It's something we're always working on, making sure to get as good as possible. But this is more for server crashes specifically, where the game just flat out gives out, and then you find yourself back on the main menu type deal. So just to be certain on that.
Yeah, and on that topic of the crashes, I know some players suspect that there's malicious play, or there's a streamer and he's like losing, and then the server suddenly crashes. Our team is investigating potential abuse, potentially like malicious actors trying to crash servers. So far, what we have discovered is that those crashes were just bugs, for the most part. I do not. I haven't seen evidence that the games have been being crashed on intentionally to force a specific outcome or like avoid losing a game.
To the accreditation database, which is wonderful.
Jolini keeps bringing this up. Please get the word out about this patch on social media. I mean, first off, I will say, I love the enthusiasm. I mean, yeah, we understand that this is a pretty big patch. The patches that we've been put out recently, I feel like we're in that right trend of certainly putting very relevant updates into the game that are going to be appealing to the player base. So we obviously have our marketing plan, not only things like this podcast, but yes, our social presence, more to come on that. And I will say again, people constantly bringing up things like more marketing efforts, etc. I get it. Trust me. If we had infinite budget to work with, absolutely we'd be plastered all over the place. With that said, we do completely agree that we want to try to get the word out as effectively as possible. We are working on some other avenues to efficiently do that, and especially reach players that not only are potentially new to Han Reborn, but heard about Han Reborn, never really tried it, and frankly, those that maybe tried Han Reborn in the past, especially with the open beta launch, and things have obviously developed a long way since then, and they tried it then, kind of gave up at that point and said they'll try again later, which again, we are very aware of that, we understand. So there's all these different kind of avenues that we're looking into, and how best to reach said audiences when it comes to getting back into the game or trying out the game for the first time, etc. So, and yeah, I mean, also as far as one more thing on that, when it comes to like bigger marketing initiatives, again, that's all subject to whoever you're talking to, but I would say the 1.0 launch, absolutely, we want to do a bit with, in terms of really making sure that the name is heard and known and understood. So, not that we don't want people to join now, of course we do, but that seems to be a very appropriate point to really kind of go, all in, if that is the appropriate wording for it. So, I do apologize. No, I see people bring this up. My wife is actually on a call as well, so that's what you're hearing in the background occasionally. So, anywho, yeah, new player experience. That is not going to be part of this patch, but that is still, as you can see, in the works, and going to be ideally coming later this month as part of match quality improvements to come.
I want to add to the marketing is that marketing is important, and we are going to be spending a lot of resources on it to get the game out of there, so that a lot of people join. And marketing works. Marketing does bring people, but before we bring a lot of people, we need to make sure that we can keep those players, and that the game that they see once they come to play, or maybe come back to play after they tried Han Reborn before, as Breaky mentioned. We want to make sure that they see a significant improvement and in the quality of the game and their experience. And that's basically what's driving all of our efforts. We want to improve experience. We want to improve the quality of the game. We want to reduce the crashes. We want to make sure that the players who are coming, especially first-time players, they have a great time and they love it and they stay. And that's our primary motivation, and that's what, when we think about like what is 1.0, it is for us the moment that we can confidently say, yes, we are ready to have another huge influx of the players, and we will make sure that we will spend significant resources in the marketing on Twitch, everywhere. It's to streamers, Facebook. Like I don't know how marketing works, so but
Whoa there. I
that's
mean,
the goal.
let's slow down a little bit. Yeah, no. So every top streamer is going to play Hunt. No, it's okay. I don't know about that, but yeah, we absolutely are going to put good efforts there and make sure that the game is known, of course. So, but again, you gotta be appropriate with the timing. But again, that's not to say that we're just not doing anything in the meantime. Not only are we, but or not only we are, but we absolutely are looking at avenues, as I keep going back to, we'd be efficient ones to take advantage of right now. So, Moeller 101 asking about, sorry if this has been asked, but anything regarding the bots and AU Midwars. So, again, we kind of addressed on this earlier for malicious accounts. Obviously, that falls under that umbrella. We do have something coming in this patch that is going to really help us get to that point of being able to ultimately deal with said accounts. So, again, unfortunately, can't sit here and say it's like, oh, the patch just comes out and all of them are going to be 100% dealt with right off the bat. But we are in the very active works of getting said issue addressed. Malicious accounts as a whole, and the bots certainly fall under that. So that is happening.
And if you see the bot in the game, please continue to report those players. Like, you cannot kick them going forward, but for starting with this patch, but you can still report them. And essentially, it's the same. As before, and it helps us mark those accounts as malicious. You can actually going into those accounts, you can already see that they accumulated like thousands and thousands of penalty points, which basically puts them away from matchmaking. So it's kind of automatically, like, as those players get reported and flagged, those accounts will be basically unable to play matchmaking. But please continue doing so, and hopefully that this issue going to be completely going away very, very soon.
Dihoko or Doko, however you pronounce it. I know I've seen you around a bit. For players sharing the referral code with newer returning players. So when it comes to referral code, we want to absolutely do something with said referral codes, as when appropriate here in the near future. Again, unfortunately, I can't sit here and comfortably say when that'll be, but for those that have used referral codes in the past, and if you want to continue to use them, we do intend for there to be some kind of reward eventually for them. But again, what the scale is, what it's ultimately going to be, and the execution of it is not necessarily in motion for it just yet. But yeah, so hopefully that answers that question there. There was another point I wanted to bring up. I think it's something that Anubis was asking here. Move the kick and put more emphasis on the penalty point system. Can we expect the penalty points to have a greater effect going forward, or who you get queued with? So again, what I will say with this new report player system and removal of the kick, and something else I don't even know if we 100% said, but penalty points are also going to be reset with this patch as well. Again, this is a pretty significant change when it comes to our moderation and the honor system, etc. So frankly, it just felt like it just makes sense. There's been too many unwarranted penalty points that have been handed out, whether it's been technical issues or quote-unquote abuse of kick, etc. That it feels like with the changes coming in, mixed with that, this is an appropriate time to do a reset. Now, with that said, the evaluation is going to really start heavily taking place tonight as far as the new report player and these changes to penalty points with how much is given for certain actions. And yeah, then deciding, ultimately what that truly means. Right now, there is the queue time delay for players, and I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, Gordon, that is it right now when it comes to penalty points. But things like you're bringing up there, Anubis, in terms of like who they can match up with, etc., that is part of the ultimate plan, yes. But as you know, and as many have found out, that part of the system just hasn't been implemented yet, which was certainly our fault for also even displaying that in the first place. Obviously, that was the intention, but one reason for another, it just never really got executed that way on several of the things when it came to penalty points and how they're handled out. So pulling that for now, but that will be coming back in at least certain levels of that. And then there's also things like the commend system. We've talked about this as well before, where the opposite direction, right? Like the more positive you are, and the more you're praised of your games, the more benefits you can have. So, Dark Lady soon. I keep seeing that. I just had to put that in there too.
So I want to add a little bit to that. Is that penalty points do affect matchmaking in both the cooldown, but also the priority of matchmaking priority. Players who spend the longest amount of time in the queue, we're kind of basically making the match around them. So we pick a player who has spent the longest in the queue so far, and put them in the Legion basically, and then we're trying to build a team around them, and then try to build an enemy team around them as well, and that player will always be in that match basically. If a matchup is possible from all the players in the queue around that player, we will make a matchup for them. But if you have accumulated a lot of penalty points, you potentially will never even reach the top, or it will take you like hours and hours to get there if you have accumulated like hundreds and hundreds of points.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way that penalty points affect matchmaking. The other point that Anubis, I think, was asking is if if the kicking system will put emphasis and whether you will be matched with those players. Right now, no. If you report somebody or kick somebody, it will penalize those players, but will not directly affect whether you will be matched with them or not. Right now, and it's at the moment, you can avoid a specific set of players, and you will guaranteed to never be matched with them in the same team as long as you are continuing to avoid but you will still be able to play against them. And it's kind of part of how our systems have been historically made. Every system is isolated, so like matchmaking system is very isolated from lobby system where like picks are happening, or from like penalty system. And but we're trying to bring a lot more, bring all those systems closer to each other. For example, with this change, matchmaking is now assigning role priority as we're matchmaking, as we're like looking for the matches. We're looking like, oh, do we have a support player? Oh, do we have a carry? Like, we don't want to put 5 carry players in the same team essentially. Before now, matchmaking didn't even know anything about roles at all. It's a responsibility of a lobby. Like once you enter a match, we say like, hey, 10 players, go make a match, and then like after that we start to assign the roles to them from based on their priorities. And the change that we're making here is we're actually moving the responsibility of the role assignment to the matchmaking. And similarly, we're going to be bringing other services closer together so that matchmaking has more information and is able to output better quality matches. And that potentially can include your history of other players. For example, if you're in the same team with a player you have previously reported, it can put like a tick, how do I say it, like a subtracted score from the quality of the match, versus if you don't have that player. Like, and as matchmaker, the way matchmaker works is basically it takes a bunch of players and it tries all different kind of permutations of like these players can be like in Legion or Hellborn, and it evaluates each and every permutation. Whether is this a better quality match? Is the disparity between like lowest and highest in the team or in a match better than what was before? Is anybody avoiding anybody? And that can include whether somebody has reported somebody or not. For example, another thing is like if you are friends with somebody, even if you're not in the same matchup, in the same group. Sorry, if you're not in the same matchmaking queue, but you're friends, we potentially can put you in the same team so that you're playing together as opposed to against each other. Or if you like in PK, we had clans and we prioritized players from the same clan to be in the same team. And a lot of those ideas are still coming to Reborn, but will sooner or later materialize in order to make the quality of the game faster, higher. right now, pretty much we equate quality of the game as the balance, and we're starting to move from the balance to actual quality. So like, is this matchup going to be more enjoyable for the players than this matchup, rather than is this just more balanced than the other? And that includes essentially roles, and who as a player you're paired with. You're like, okay. Hopefully that answers.
It's good insight. And obviously, yeah, there's a lot said there, but it's a mix of like it makes sense, but it is also something that feel it out, right? It's something that you kind of have to just feel it out and understand, like that. Sure, these big changes have been made. The ultimate goal is to make them much more enjoyable match experience for each individual player going into the game. Now, with it coming out this patch and with even more coming on down the line, just continue to feel it out over time. I think is an important thing to say there, and knowing that that's in place. I think we have time for a couple more questions, maybe, because we're pretty much hitting the hour mark. That's when we like to start wrapping up here. Dang it, now I lost it actually. So there's a couple of questions along the lines of, do you have statistics of what time and match players are kicked? And then somebody else saying kick should stay for maybe like the first 5 minutes. And so we understand that this logic of wanting to have this ability to be able to still kick griefers that are just very quote unquote obvious, from the beginning they should be kicked, etc. And this is where it's hard. I completely understand your all's perspective, or people that kind of have this worry almost that with removing it and going to this report player thing, because we're saying a lot of things right now without it actually technically being in. Yeah, it's coming out of this patch, and then even as we say that, again, it is going to need a little bit of time to build up and become this efficient tool that we're confident it can be when it comes to moderation, things like that. So that mixed with what we also have coming, as we've talked on a couple times, to help deal with malicious accounts, and yes, things like people griefing, etc., and just then creating a new account to do the same thing, that falls under that. These tools kind of coming together to really help make sure said players that are not able to even join games in the future, nearly as much too, if at all, no matter how many accounts they create or whatever it is, right? So, again, it's going to take a little bit of time initially, and that's where we keep going back to, ask for your patience on that, but it will be for the better moving forward, compared to, where it stands right now with kick vote and everything. So, just again, to hopefully reiterate that and help drive that point across from our perspective. So. Any other questions you see? We want to wrap it up there. I mean, there's a lot of questions, but just more.
Yeah, there's always going to be a lot of questions, but as we're approaching 1 hour mark, I think it's maybe time to start wrapping it up.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and do that then. So again, guys, obviously we're always, available on Discord too. You can keep asking questions in there. Do our best to answer whoever it is. So, but yeah, always happy to do these Reborn Roundtables. So if you tune in late, in case you missed it, this will be posted on our YouTube as always. You can watch it back and enjoy talk points here. We had Malikan joining us earlier to also talk about a couple things. Big shout out to him as always. And yeah, Revenant and patch 9.3 going to be coming out later tonight into tomorrow for this weekend. So when that is up, certainly look forward to enjoying that and all that comes with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're wrapping up officially. I'm Breaking CBK, joined by Corden and Malikan earlier. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.